Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores a goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Steven Melendez, and I'm going to be bringing you the latest and greatest in soccer news from around the world. Welcome back, everyone, to your favorite soccer podcast. We've got an exciting show ready for you guys today. A lot of domestic league talk. We got the Champions League coming up this week, and I am so giddy. I just cannot wait for it all to happen. The tables in the leagues, all the top 5 leagues are really heating up. I love it when we get down to those final weeks. I guess you can say like the final month of the season, and there's still a title up for grabs. It just makes everything so much more exciting, and I just can't wait to talk about it all with you guys today. And I got a different top 10 coming your way, maybe similar to previous ones, but I got a new set of clubs that I'm going to be wanting to talk about now. So let's just get down to it, talking about what we're going to be discussing in today's show. For the first part of the show, we're going to be talking about the Champions League second leg matchups. We got all of the exciting games going on for that second leg of the Champions League, and I'm going to be getting into all those, just previewing the teams, giving my own little prediction of who I believe is going to be moving on to the next round. Next, we're going to be talking about, of course, the Premier League. I cover that league the most, and I'm going to be talking about all the stuff that has happened over this past week. Next, after that, we're going to be talking about the other top 5 leagues as well. We're going to get into all the other domestic leagues, talk about, how the title races are going, what, big-time games maybe change things up a bit in the tables, from, first to fifth. I might talk about a little bit after, lower than that, depending on if a team has struggled, like Liverpool. But, we're just going to continue to talk about that. And then lastly, we're going to be talking about the top 10 players for Manchester City this season. This new series I'm going to do is I'm going to be talking about the top 10 players in each Premier League club. I'm going to work from the top of the top in Manchester City, work my way down. So definitely expect a Manchester United top 10 next week. But yeah, let's get started with the Champions League second legs that we're going to be enjoying. Sounding weird there, but that we're going to be enjoying tomorrow and Wednesday, of course. We got Juventus, we got Porto, we got Dortmund, we got Sevilla, PSG versus Barcelona, and then, of course, Liverpool versus RB Leipzig. A lot of big-time clubs there, and it's going to be really exciting to see which ones are going to make it out on top and really get through to the next round. So let's just get started with Juventus versus Porto, which is the game that's going to be going on tomorrow. Maybe it's already done by the time you guys are listening to me. But again, I'm going to give you guys a little preview, talk about each of the teams, how they've been doing, and which one I believe is going to be moving on to the next round. So for that first leg, it was a bit of a shocker for, I'm sure, anybody who was watching originally. You had Porto taking a 2-1 aggregate lead in that first leg, and it was a pretty dominant performance from Porto. I mean, Juventus certainly played well also. They had their flashes of brilliance that you would expect from a Juventus team, but at the same time, it wasn't the same. You don't expect a team like Juve to be struggling against a Porto team that, I mean, sure, they're solid, but they're not a Porto team that, like the one that Jose Mourinho managed back in the day that they won the Champions League final. They definitely have some great players, but it's just not what you would expect. Let me actually pull up the team here so I can tell you guys a little bit about, who are some of the best players on that team. I mean, you got Mehdi Taremi, Jesus Corona, which is one of the Mexicans that I covered recently in my top 10 Mexico players of all, current Mexico players. He's got that flash, that brilliance, but Juventus need to figure out a way to stop that flash because that usually opens up for other teammates. He's got 6 assists to lead the team, so he usually uses that great dribbling ability to really open things up for his teammates. He certainly did that in the other in the first leg, and Juventus need to find a way to shut down, as well as covering midfielder Sergio Oliveira, who currently is tied for the lead in goals scored, 10 goals, and he has also 4 assists. He's their main penalty kicker, so he gets most of them from there. But at the same time, they need to figure out a way to shut down him and Mehdi in order to really shut down this Porto defense, or Porto attack, I should say. At the same time, they need to figure out a way to get stuff going themselves because it has been kind of a struggle for them outside of Cristiano Ronaldo to really find consistent offense. Yes, we know the brilliance of Ronaldo, 20 goals scored this season. Obviously, he's not the same Cristiano Ronaldo that we've seen in years past. I mean, he's getting up there in age. He's already 36 years old, and he's still one of the greatest of all time. I'm not taking anything away from him, but you can no longer expect him to just win you a game every night. That's just not going to happen, as you saw in the first leg. But, they still need to try to find stuff from other players. Like Alvaro Morata was a solid addition. I mean, he's got 8 assists to, I believe, lead the club at the moment. His 7 goals are second on the team. You need to see a little bit more from him on that side. Same thing from Federico Chiesa, coming in from Fiorentina. He's been, kind of that secondary playmaker off of Morata, and I guess that secondary goal scorer off Cristiano Ronaldo. He kind of can do a little bit of everything in that attack. He got them that 1 goal in the first leg that kind of saved them a little bit, but they need more from him and really more from plenty of other players. I mean, I love what McKinney is giving to them in the midfield. Same thing with Aaron Ramsey, Rabiot, even though Ramsey has dealt with a few injuries this season, so it's been kind of tough for him to really get it going, but overall, they just need to see more. And the same thing from Kulusevski. That there was a lot of hype coming into the season from him, and he has just not lived up to it. He's only got 3 goals and 1 assist in 23 appearances. Kind of been relegated a little bit to a bench role, because he's only got 12 starts this season of those 23 appearances. So overall, what you want to see from Juventus is just organization, focus, because they obviously have the talent to move on in this competition, but will they put it together for a full 90 minutes to overcome this 2-1 deficit in the standings? I mean, I'm not sure about that. I mean, and this game I believe it's a home match for Juventus, so they were able to get that away goal. Very, very important away goal for them. So really, they only need to score 1 here, and they move on to the next round. Of course, they got to win 1-0 in order for that to happen, and I'm not sure if their defense has, it really hasn't been at that same level as it has been in recent years. Bonucci and Chiellini. I mean, Chiellini can barely stay on the on the floor, enough to really be effective. He's had to be called out early on in games on multiple occasions because he is getting up there in age. They do have that other defender, what was his name? I can't remember it. Demiral. Obviously, he's got a lot of hype at 23 years old, just turned 23. That, he's called like the Turkish wall. So he has a little bit of hype on him, but he needs to show more in order to really help that defense. It hasn't really been the case this season. But overall, there are still plenty of chances for Juventus to move on to this round. They certainly have the ability. Ronaldo, don't be surprised if you see, an exciting Ronaldo performance in this game. I expect it, but I actually don't think Juventus are going to move on. I've said this time and time again. This is not the same Juventus squad that you've seen in years past. It just isn't. It doesn't have that same dominance to it as you've seen. And obviously we see it in Serie A. They're not dominating there either. It's really been Inter Milan and AC Milan's season. It's crazy how Inter Milan's not even in Europe competition anymore, and AC Milan are in the Europa League. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. It's kind of like a changing of the guard for Juventus, and I feel like they're going to fail here, and Porto are going to get at least one goal here, which is going to require Juve to get 2 goals in this match. Not sure if they'll be able to do it. I see Porto moving on. So Porto, I see a final score of maybe like a 1-1. It could go 2-1, and then you see this go to extra time, and of course anything can happen there. And if this does go to extra time, I'm siding with Juventus at that point, because I feel like Juve at that would have much more experience in these big time situations, and that will more often than not get you through to that next round. So in regulation, I'm going with Porto. In extra time, if it goes that way, I'm going with Juve. So next, we're going to move on to the Dortmund versus Sevilla matchup, where Dortmund took a 3-2 aggregate lead over Sevilla. That first match was away for Dortmund, so they picked up 3 away goals. Luckily for Sevilla, they were able to pick up a late goal in that first leg in order to at least make it 3-2, make it a little bit more manageable as they head into the second leg, but they still need 2 goals in order to make it through. I don't think they're going to have enough firepower to slow down Dortmund on that side of the ball and still be able to score 2 goals, because even if Dortmund scores 1 in this one, they need more than 2. They're going to need 3. So it's going to be a very, very tough game for Sevilla to overcome. And I don't think they have a firepower. I was very excited to see Sevilla after Papu Gomez joined the squad. I really thought they were going to be, probably one of the biggest underdogs or one of the, dark horses, I should say, in this competition. But Dortmund really hit them on their head in that first leg. Getting 3 away goals is a game changer. I do not believe Sevilla can overcome that. But you go and we look at the squads. Obviously, for Dortmund, we know where it is there. You got guys like Haaland, Jadon Sancho that are really going to lead that squad. Erling Haaland, it's official. He is one of the best strikers in the world. He's already getting courted by teams like Real Madrid, Barcelona, Juve. It's happening, and it was expected to happen, especially if he was going to be balling this early. He's got 19 appearances, 19 goals. That is how good he is, and he's not even there. Like, they don't get a lot of penalties. He's got 18 of those 19 goals in open play, so he can get them in a variety of ways. He is so athletic, so quick, and agile for his size that it's really hard to stop him when he gets going. And when you add that along with Jadon Sancho, who started off this year pretty slow, but he's definitely picked it up since then, leads the team in assists with 9, is second on the team in goals at 6. So you really, aren't surprised by those numbers because he is such an immense talent. And those two together can certainly, change any tie. So I don't really feel, even though I love what Sevilla have with Rakitic and Papu Gomez in that midfield, it's one of my, like, for La Liga, Sevilla are my team. That's just how I have it. They're my favorite team in Sevilla. And I mean, yes, they have some other pieces like Lucas Ocampos. Even though Jesus Navas is kind of getting up there in age, he's also been a very solid player. Joan Jordan has really stepped up this season as well. And even though Luke de Jong, I expected a lot from him this season, he has certainly taken a step back from his solid season last year. Youssef En-Nesyri has kind of taken that role as their main striker with his 13 goals, leads the team. And Papu Gomez, in 5 appearances, he's only gotten 1 goal in La Liga. All competitions, I don't think it really changes. Yeah, no, he's got 9 appearances, 1 goal, no assist, which is probably the most surprising. I expected him to be easily their best playmaker and a magician with the ball, which he is, but clearly he's having a little bit of trouble to really, implement him with the team and really make that transition smoothly. So with that not really being a big X factor, I'm really seeing Dortmund, especially with Dortmund having that 3-2 aggregate lead with 3 away goals. I just don't see Sevilla having enough on the attack while also holding off that dynamic attacking power of Borussia Dortmund to move on to the next round. So I definitely see Dortmund moving on here with and probably dominating this game, maybe even getting like a 2-1 score. So aggregate ends up being like 5-3. Maybe Sevilla does have a little bit of a pushback. Maybe they make it 2-2, but still it makes it for naught because Dortmund did get those 3 away goals. So regardless, I see Dortmund moving on in this tie. Next, let's talk about my, obviously, favorite tie and the one that I'm most invested in. We got PSG versus Barcelona. That first leg was a massacre, 4-1 win for PSG. Kylian Mbappe getting a hat trick. Barcelona, yes, they started off pretty well, getting that penalty kick, which, I mean, we'll leave that up in the air. I don't think it was a penalty, but it was like a clipped shoelace or something. But Barcelona were able to get at least a goal in that game to kind of bring back some nightmares for PSG fans that, you know, they had an even better first leg lead the last time these two went up against each other in the Champions League. They had a 4-0 aggregate lead going into the second leg, and we all know what happened then. Barcelona ended up winning in the Camp Nou 6-1. I like to forget the night. I do not like to remember that whatsoever, but that is bringing up some memories, because 4-1 lead, even though I have a completely different feel on this PSG team than I have in recent years. I feel like they have much more, like the culture is getting much better. And this is, it takes a while to really change things in a team like PSG, which kind of became popular, like 10 years ago, hasn't really been, at the top of football for that long. So it's going to take a while to really change the culture in a team like this, but you just have to stay persistent, keep moving forward, kind of like Bayern Munich did. They've been legends of the game for decades. So it's obvious why they kind of get a different, I don't know, yes, the Bundesliga is way more competitive than Liga, and that's not even a question, but it's not that much more competitive. It's not close to leagues like Serie A or Premier League. I actually even think La Liga is a bit more competitive than the Bundesliga, because you got teams like Sevilla, Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, Real Madrid. Those four teams are going to be competing there, almost every single season. So, but I understand. PSG is like they say, in a farmers league, even though this year is starting to change that a bit with four teams kind of battling for that league title spot. And but overall, I just don't have that same feel I had before. Yes, it obviously brings back bad memories, having a 4-1 lead over Barcelona heading into, which is going to be now the Parc des Princes, because those are 4 away goals, people. That needs to be said. That is a huge, huge factor in this thing. They need to get even 3 goals. Even if Barcelona are up 3-0, that doesn't get them into the next round. They would have to 4-0 PSG. 4-1 sends them into extra time. So anything can happen here. I'm just super, super excited to get it going. Another big thing, PSG is going to be getting Neymar back. He's going to be off the bench, so you're going to see him feature off the bench. He's certainly going to play. But you're going to get another dosage of Kylian Mbappe burning through the Barcelona defense. I'm not sure if Barcelona are going to go with that same lineup. I'm sure Piqué is going to play, especially after what he did in the Copa del Rey against Sevilla. I don't even know why. I should have probably talked about that. That was huge, but it was just, huge stuff from Barcelona in that game. But I just do not expect Barcelona to really be able to hold off PSG enough to get through the next round. That the big time fail in the first leg has really put them in a hole, and I just do not see them being able to put enough together to move on to the next round. PSG are going to take care of business. You're going to see Pochettino really, instill diligence and focus and discipline on this team to really move on to the next round and continue their route to another finals appearance. So lastly, we're going to be talking about Liverpool versus RB Leipzig. Two teams, one that is actually playing really well domestically. You got RB Leipzig pretty much right behind Bayern Munich. We're going to get that. We're going to get into that in the third segment. But then you got Liverpool, which we're going to talk about in the next segment, playing very poor of late. Their offense and attack has been close to nothing of late. Obviously playing in the Champions League gives them, something different to really reach for, which is why they were able to go 2-0 on RB Leipzig in the first leg. So I still believe Liverpool are a better team here. They are. They have a lot more talent, even with the injuries they've had to deal with. No Virgil van Dijk does not really matter. RB Leipzig don't have an incredible attack to really be, scared of. Yes, Yusuf Poulsen's great. Emil Forsberg. I like Nkunku. They got pieces. I'm not trying to, send any negatives towards RB Leipzig's way. They have talent. They just don't have the same level of talent that Liverpool do. And I feel in these big games like the Champions League round of 16, you're going to see those star players like Mario Sane, Salah, Firmino really step up and dominate this game and kind of take over because once they get that first goal, it's really going to change things. RB Leipzig going down 2-0, not even being able to get a goal in that first leg certainly makes things difficult for them to get back into this tie. Because if Liverpool scores that goal, RB Leipzig need to score 3 to move on. 2 doesn't get them anywhere. It would need to be 3, and yes, they would move on because they'd have 3 away goals. But and it's possible. I mean, Liverpool's defense has been garbage this season, and their attack has also been garbage. But for some reason, their domestic league play doesn't really translate into Europe competitions. I'm not really sure why. I mean, maybe it's, the nostalgia of playing in the Champions League, but that's just facts. Liverpool play differently in the Champions League. They've shown it so far this season, and I feel like that's really going to send them into the next round. Now, when you really look at the team overall, I mean, it's just really at the moment it's kind of even though yes, I did say Liverpool are higher in quality, but when you look at the teams themselves, like overall, it's pretty even. I mean, RB Leipzig have a really solid defense. They've only allowed 20 goals in their 24 matches this season. That's good for 0.8 per game this season. And their offense has been solid, almost 2 goals a game in the Bundesliga. And a lot of that has to do with the, number of players that can score goals. They have, 6 players that have scored at least 4 goals this season, which just goes to show you that they got a lot of options. Marcel Sabitzer, Willy Orban, Angelino, and Nkunku, Poulsen, Forsberg, like I've already talked about. Even Alexander Sorloth has really stepped up and been, a solid piece off the bench. And I love their defense. Honestly, I love their defense. Mukelele, obviously I've talked wonders about Upamecano, even though he's made a few mistakes, over the past few weeks, whether it's domestically or in Europe competitions. He has made his mistakes, but he's still one of the better, center backs in the world, in my opinion. And then you also got Dani Olmo, who really sets up his teammates well, leads the team with 7 assists. And I want to see more of Tyler Adams. Like, I feel like Tyler Adams is super underrated, doesn't get a lot of, looks on the team. I mean, he does have 20 appearances, 15 starts. He's got 1 goal, 1 assist, but that's not really his game. He doesn't really put counting stats numbers on the floor. It's really his defense, his presence in the midfield that changes things. And I really want to see that in this game. I don't really think you will, because it's the Champions League and that's obviously a big thing. But and for Liverpool, it's been the Mohamed Salah show, man. 17 goals to lead the team. No one else has more than 7 goals this season. Sadio Mane has not been the same. Only 7 goals, 3 assists this year. And probably the biggest thing for them is the fact that I just have not felt Trent Alexander-Arnold's presence this season. I mean, he's got 3 assists on the year in 26 appearances. That is nothing like the Alexander-Arnold that we have seen over the past few years that I easily would have considered the best fullback in the entire world. This season, he has certainly taken a step back. He's not even the best fullback in the Premier League right now. That's surprisingly to me, even though I kind of talked a little trash about him. Not trash, but like I kind of tossed him aside. Luke Shaw has been really stepping it up and has been a game changer for Manchester United this season. Like, that's someone that you got to talk about when you talk about best fullbacks in the Premier League. It's no longer Trent Alexander-Arnold. And yes, he's only 22 years old. He's got plenty of room to grow, but that is one of the main reasons why Liverpool are no longer, one of the best attacking units in the world. He was one of the key pieces to that. Yes, I love what Andrew Robertson gives. I believe he leads the team with 5 assists, or he's tied for the lead with Firmino. But it's just not, it doesn't give you that same feel that what Trent Alexander does when he's hitting it, when he's really in good form. So, in terms of predictions, I still think Liverpool are going to make it through. I see them probably dominating. I don't think they're going to hold a clean sheet here. I think RB Leipzig are probably going to get 2 goals, put a little pressure on Liverpool, but they'll at least get 1, maybe even 2 to kind of shut this tie out and move on to the quarterfinals. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around because when I come back, I'm going to be talking about the Premier League, talk about some of the games that have happened this past weekend and week, and, of course, discuss the table right after this.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast. If you guys missed the last segment, we talked about the Champions League second leg matchups coming up this week. Did a little preview, a little prediction about which teams are going to be moving on to the quarterfinals. And now we're going to be talking about the Premier League, what games happened this past weekend, what's going on in the table. We had a big-time derby between Manchester United and Manchester City. We're going to be talking about that as well and what it means for the table and if there is a title race. Highly unlikely, but, we're going to get into anyways. So let's get started with a few games that happened. We had a lot of games going on. We had Arsenal versus Burnley, and again, kind of an inconsistent game from Arsenal. You would expect them to dominate this game against Burnley, which I guess if you look at the stats, yeah, they had 59% possession. They had 15 shots to Burnley's 9. But Burnley were much more efficient with their looks, had 5 shots on target, which are 2 more than Arsenal had. Just didn't bring their shooting boots to this game. They did get off to a really hot start with a 6-minute goal from Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, kind of got it going. But it's kind of the same old with Arsenal. Just not being able to hold on to their leads, not being able to play consistent for all 90 minutes. And they at least didn't give up, the tie at least. They were able to hold on for a 1-1 draw as Burnley were able to equalize before the half with a 39th minute goal from Chris Wood. I mean, who else would it be for Burnley? Chris Wood has been incredible this season, but, maybe not incredible, but he's been their most consistent attacking threat this season. But yeah, Arsenal were not able to get the 3 points, hold on for at least a 1-1 draw, but it still keeps them mid-table. I mean, they do have 2 wins and a draw in their last 3 games, or I should say the last 4 games, but it's still just inconsistent play. I mean, 2 points behind Aston Villa, 5 behind Liverpool, which it's just kind of insane what's going on there. But yeah, it's just another inconsistent game from Arsenal, and it's just a continuation of how their season has gone. We got a 2-0 victory for Southampton over Sheffield United, something that I'm sure all Southampton fans were happy to see, as their run of form has been really, really, really bad. But they get the win, and it's a much needed win. After I don't think they won a game in 6 matches or 7 matches, I believe. And it's been a really tough run of form, but they were able to hold on here for a 2-0 win. They got a goal in the first half, penalty from James Ward-Prowse, second goal from Che Adams just starting in the second half, and their defense was solid. I mean, they held Sheffield United to 8 shots, only 2 on target. The possession was pretty even, but for the most part, it felt like Southampton's game to win, and they certainly took the reins in this game and won it. Got all 3 points and were able to get a 2-0 victory over Sheffield United. And for Sheffield, it's kind of a tough loss, even though no one's really expecting them to get out of this cellar that they're in. 14 points in 28 matches. They had a decent run of form over like a couple weeks ago, but that's kind of they've now kind of gotten back to that team that they were to the start of the season, and they are one of the worst teams in the Premier League. There's no sugarcoating that. They have not been able to score at any sort of consistent basis. Only 16 goals scored this season in their 28 games. And the 45 goals allowed is second worst in the league. So it just, or no, not second worst. But it's up there. It's like third or fourth worst in the league. So it's just not been a good season from them. Obviously, it's not pretty football when you're not scoring goals. And when you're giving up as many as they have, you're going to end up being one of the worst teams in the Premier League. They just so happen to be riding that terrible 17-game losing run where they didn't win, or was it winless run, I should say, to last place in the Premier League. They're only 4 points behind West Brom, but 12 points behind Brighton for 17th. So it's just not going to happen for them. Next we have, what was it, the next game? Aston Villa versus Wolves. Kind of a dud of a game, a goalless draw. Both teams kind of weren't really playing all that efficiently in the attack. Aston Villa had 1 shot on target of their 9 shots. Wolves had 10 shots, only 2 on target. And it's kind of been that kind of season for Wolves. I mean, it feels like they have the talent to really, dominate in the attack and really, outscore opponents, but it just has not gone that way this season. They were hoping bringing in Willian Jose from La Liga would really, spark things for their attack, and it just has not. He has not done anything to really, help the Wolves. I think he's only got like a goal or in like 10 matches now, so it just has not worked out for them. They need Raul Jimenez back. That's as clear as day. But even Raul Jimenez is not going to fix what is going on with the Wolves. They need to kind of fix things up and maybe even help out a little bit in the midfield. I mean, I like Moutinho, but I think like his time there is kind of done. They need to really figure out what's going to go on with Adama Traore, who's really been a ghost this season. I like Neto, I like Neves, no problems there, but just overall, this team kind of needs a shakeup. And for Aston Villa, it's kind of also been a tough game, but they don't have their star player. It's really going to be tough to win without Jack Grealish. He creates so much for them in the attack. He pretty much runs everything for them, and not having him is really going to make it difficult to score on a regular basis. But at least they were able to hold on defensively and get a draw here. Those are some positives you can look at there. But without their star player, it's kind of like both these teams were missing their star player, and that's kind of what you get here with a goalless draw. Leicester City defeated Brighton 2-1 to kind of keep up in that top 4 spot. They gave up an early goal to Adam Lallana in the 10th minute to Brighton, and Brighton were looking good early. I mean, that first half was pretty solid, even though Leicester City were still dominant. We're getting a few opportunities, but the second half was all Leicester City, and they rode that momentum into a 2-1 victory to at least hold on to one of those top 4 spots. They're 3 games ahead of Chelsea, 5 ahead of West Ham for one of those top 4. And they need to continue to play well, because before this win, they had a draw and a loss in their last 2 games. They cannot afford to have that drop in play like they did last season if they want to hold on to one of these Champions League spots. They certainly deserve it with the way they've been playing this season, what they've had to deal with in terms of, key players being out. And so they need to hold on in order to be able to get one of those Champions League spots. Next, we had a big missed opportunity for Newcastle as they had a goalless draw over West Brom. And they had opportunities. I mean, they had 5 shots on target, but West Brom were also playing pretty well in this game. Not what you would expect from a Newcastle team. I mean, they haven't been good this season. They're borderline, in relegation, and with Fulham having a very solid run of form of late, they're kind of on the brink of getting into a relegation spot. Their defense has been very poor this season. The attack has been a little better than some of the other teams around them, but it needs to be even better than what it has. So with 2 draws and 2 losses in their last 4 games, it has not been a good run. And especially when you take on a team like West Brom, which has been one of the worst, the worst defensive team in the entire league, you need to do more than put up a goose egg in the game. They need to be better than what they've been. So, big time missed opportunity for Newcastle, and you need to expect more from them there. Now, probably the biggest upset of the entire week. You had Fulham take on Liverpool at home, and Fulham came out with a victory, only their second victory at Anfield in history, with a 1-0 win over Liverpool. I mean, the drought just continues for Liverpool. This is now, their sixth straight loss at Anfield. It's the longest streak for them losing at home in their history. And this is the first time a Premier League team loses 6 in a row at home since Huddersfield Town in February of 2019, who had 7. So this is a historic run of bad form for Liverpool. And for this to be, a team that we had so many high expectations for coming into the season, it's just absolutely incredible what we've seen from them. And even though, yes, Fulham got a 1-0 win, but they absolutely deserved that 1-0 win. They could have probably even had two goals in this game. It's just that, man, Liverpool's attack is an absolute shambles. They had 16 shots in this game. Only 3 of those were on target. And yes, Fulham only had 3 shots on target as well, but they had so many opportunities getting behind the back line of Liverpool, and it was a makeshift back line as well. They put Nico Williams and Reece Williams in that back line along with Phillips. Robertson was the only kind of regular starting 11 player in that back line, and it showed. They continuously attacked that right side, getting behind Nico Williams and Reece Williams time and time again, and it was a struggle for Liverpool throughout this game. Salah is going to be, banging his head on. I'm sure he was banging his head on the locker in the locker room after this game, as he was the one that gave the ball up to Lemina in order to, when Fulham scored right before halftime. It was a cross, I believe, that was brought into the box. Robertson headed it out, found Salah pretty much on the edge of the box. He wasn't able to get control of it. Lemina came right in, took the ball away from him, and just struck it perfectly past Alisson for the 1-0 lead right before half. And they would hold on to that lead until the end of the game and won this game. It's just very, very poor play from Liverpool. They were getting more opportunities late in the game, but it was already too little too late. Fulham had a lot. You have to credit Fulham's defense getting in the way time and time again, very strong clearances to really help out Areola. There was one instance that Liverpool could have probably scored a goal, which was a beautifully timed shot by Jota, but Areola was there to stop it with one hand. A beautiful save from Areola, who's had a very underrated season this year for Fulham, who have not been good whatsoever. They have been in a pretty solid run of form of late. What is it? They're at the moment they're unbeaten in their last 8 Premier League away games, 2 wins and 6 draws. Their longest run without a defeat on the road in the top flight in their history. So you're obviously getting a very solid, informed Fulham team and a Liverpool team that are literally heading in the opposite direction. It's just been dumbfounding. Like, honestly, I really cannot believe what I'm seeing from Liverpool this season. And as of late, and this now drops them all the way to 8th place in the Premier League. They're now 5 points behind 5 points behind West Ham for a Europa League spot, and 7 points behind Chelsea for one of those last top 4 spots with 10 games to go in the season. I just don't think it's possible anymore. I mean, with the way they've been playing, they've had so many chances against teams, and they just have not taken advantage of them. Their next couple games are not easy. Wolves, Arsenal, Aston Villa, Leeds United, Newcastle should be a good game. Manchester United, though, I mean, do you expect Liverpool to beat Man United the way they're playing? Absolutely not. So it's just been a very, very poor season from Liverpool. I mean, a big-time drop from where they have been over the past few years, and I don't know when it's going to stop. I really don't. Now let's talk about the Manchester Derby, where we saw Manchester United defeat Man City and end their 21-game unbeaten run. It was an incredible performance for Manchester United. I mean, they started off the game extremely well, playing super fluid in attack, making things difficult for Man City's defense. Gabriel Jesus committed a very poor foul, literally in the opening seconds of this game, to give Man United a penalty attempt. And of course, if you know Bruno Fernandes, he's not going to mess up those chances. Scored in the second minute via penalty to give Manchester United that 1-0 lead. And sure, Man City definitely had chances. I mean, they had 23 shots in this game, 6 on target. Their possession, they had primary possession of the ball. Their passing was very solid, but it didn't result in many clear-cut chances. While Manchester United, with those few chances they had, especially one in the second half by, ridiculously in form, Luke Shaw, scored in the second half to make it 2-0 for Manchester United. It was definitely against the run of play, because you would have expected Man City to at least equalize with the way they've been playing, and you would not have expected them to give up 2 goals with the way that their defense is played. But Cancelo, usually, playing very solid this season defensively, really messed up on that second goal, got caught out of position, and allowed Luke Shaw, or I forgot who it was, that really got caught on that run, to really open up the Man City's defense. And it found Luke Shaw in the box, and he put it home for a goal that really ended this game. And Man City definitely had chances late. They were putting a lot of pressure on Manchester United, but they just couldn't get that, even a consolation goal. They were close, but they just couldn't get it into the back of the net. And Manchester United get a big-time victory over Man City in the Manchester Derby. Now, does this make things interesting in the table? Absolutely not. Even with this win, Man City are 11 points clear of Manchester United with 10 games to go. Maybe it's possible, if this is a sign of Man City dropping points and Man United going on a crazy run like Man City just did, but the odds of it happening are very, very low. Certainly this was a step in the right direction. If there was any chance of it happening, they had to win this game. They don't take Man City on any other time during the season, so they needed to win this game, and they did that. So a big-time victory for Manchester United, and a kind of an uneven game from Man City in this one. Now Tottenham taking on Crystal Palace. They defeated them 4-1. You got a brace from Gareth Bale and a brace from Harry Kane as well. Big-time game from them. Though the first half was pretty even. Crystal Palace were kind of keeping up with Tottenham, even though Tottenham certainly had more possession, but they weren't allowing Tottenham to just kind of take over the game and do whatever they wanted. Tottenham had 12 shots, 5 on target, sure, but it just didn't feel like Tottenham were doing whatever they wanted in that first half. That's why it went into the break tied at 1-1. Christian Benteke scored in extra time right before the break to make it 1-1 after Gareth Bale opened up the scoring in the 25th minute. However, in the second half, it was all Tottenham. Gareth Bale scored his second goal 4 minutes into the second half. Harry Kane doubled the lead for Tottenham in the 3 minutes later. And then, it was pretty much all Tottenham after that. You were just waiting for them to get extra goals. And Harry Kane would do just that in the 76th minute to make it 4-1 for Tottenham. And it was a very convincing win for them. Maybe not the first half, but the second half, absolutely. And it kind of goes with the way they've been playing. That's now 3 straight wins for Tottenham after a very poor run of form. And they're now just 3 points out of 5th place. They need to continue to play the way they've been playing. Their defense has been solid. Their attack is starting to pick it up again the way it was earlier on in the season. But you just need to see a little bit more from Tottenham. Now, you look at their next couple games. They take on Arsenal in their next Premier League game. They do have a Europa League matchup in between that. And they do take on a Europa League game after that Arsenal game. So they got a lot of matches mixed in there. So they're going to need to figure out ways to, get guys rested. And it's going to be tough, but that's the way it goes now in the Premier League. They then take on Aston Villa and then Newcastle before a big 2-game stretch between Manchester United and Everton in the Premier League. Those are going to be vital to them getting one of those top 5 spots. If they can squeeze out a point or 3, or maybe even a win over Manchester United and Everton, they have a big time chance of making it into that top 5 spot. However, they're going to have to beat out teams that have been performing extremely well this season, like West Ham, Chelsea, undefeated in their time with Thomas Tuchel. So I don't know. It's gonna be very difficult for Tottenham to really get back into that top 5, but it's certainly possible with them being so close. Next, we have Chelsea versus Everton. This was a very exciting game coming into this week. It was probably like the second most exciting game that I was looking forward to because you got Chelsea. Like I've said, Thomas Tuchel has really got them playing, great football of late. I mean, the defense has been worlds better since Lampard was there. And the attack is starting to get a resemblance of what we were expecting coming into the season. And it's honestly coming from an unlikely source. Callum Hudson-Odoi has really stepped it up since Thomas Tuchel's arrival. He's probably one of Thomas Tuchel's favorite players. He's really starting, I believe he started close to every game. I remember there was that one incident where he got subbed on and taken off because he expects more from Hudson-Odoi than what he saw there. And that was probably sending a message to the whole team throughout. And I'm telling you what, it's really showing that this, that people are really answering the call to what Thomas Tuchel's asking for. They got a 2-0 victory over Everton, and it wasn't dominating by any means. I mean, Chelsea, the first goal was an own goal. Kai Havertz wasn't able to get it on goal, but it went off Ben Godfrey for a early score in the 34th first minute. And then in the second half, it was a very solid run by Kai Havertz to then avoid Pickford, who fouled him in that ensuing run. And Jorginho was able to make it 2-0 with a 65th minute penalty. Now, it wasn't dominant in attack by any means, but the biggest thing for me here is their defense. They allowed only 7 shots, only 1 on target this entire game, and it was suffocating. And the biggest thing is that it's that 3 defender lineup that Thomas Tuchel is now putting into this Chelsea team. Azpilicueta, Christensen, Zuma. It has worked, and it's certainly helping things. Edouard Mendy has been a huge addition to this team since he's come on, and then you also got to look at the midfielders. Jorginho and Kovacic really help out in that defense. Kind of come back. They do obviously help with the with the fluidity and attack, but they're asked to do a lot. They're in that center midfielding spot for a reason. They're asked to be box to box midfielders, and it works for this team. And they've been able to play very solid football. So. Chelsea getting a big-time 2-0 victory over Everton and holding on to that top 4 spot in the league. And then lastly, we got West Ham versus Leeds United. This was one of those games that really had a chance to be, an underrated game that nobody was really looking at. But West Ham just continued to play excellent football. Jesse Lingard looking like like an absolute star on this West Ham team. He has been rejuvenated since getting loaned from Manchester United. Got an early goal in the 21st minute. Despite it being off a missed penalty, or I guess I should say a saved penalty, he pounced on that save right away to make it 1-0. And then shortly after, Craig Dawson, a diving header off a cross to make it 2-0 for West Ham. Leeds United didn't really get much going in the attack. Like, they had opportunities, but their shots just were not connecting. They had 17 shots, only 2 of them were on target. They had control of the game, really. They had a lot of momentum. Those 2 goals really came against the run of form, but West Ham took advantage of their opportunities, had 16 shots, 5 on target. Even with 34% possession, they were able to hold on and get a 2-0 victory over Leeds United and hold on to that 5th place in the Premier League, somewhere that nobody expected them to be, over teams like Everton, Tottenham, Liverpool, Arsenal. It's just incredible what they've been able to do this season, and they're only 2 points off of 4th place Chelsea. 3 wins in their last 4. And that one loss that's mixed in there was to Man City, where they lost 2-1. So just incredible form from West Ham, and it's going to take a lot for them to get that 5th place pride off of them. They're just in such excellent form, playing very well. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around, because when I come back, I'm going to be talking about the top 5 leagues right after this.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast. If you guys missed the last segment, we talked about the Premier League, obviously discussed the games that happened over the weekend and talked about what's going on in the table. Obviously, we got Liverpool playing atrocious football. Man City lost the game to Manchester United, but still have that lead in the table and are looking like the eventual champions. But now we're going to be talking about the other top 5 leagues doing the same thing, going over the games that have happened over this past weekend, and talk about how those title races are shaping up. Let's start off with the Bundesliga, where we had some interesting games, some teams that dropped points. Not the teams at the top, though, but we had some interesting games. We had first the worst 2 teams in the league going at it between Schalke and Mainz. And as you would imagine, it was not a very exciting game, even though Mainz had, were pretty much dominating in terms of shots scored. They had 19 shots to Schalke's 2, but they did not bring their shooting boots to that game. Only 2 shots on target out of those 19. Schalke did have 2 shots on target as well, but it eventually came to a goalless draw in this matchup. Not a very exciting game there, but it was a big opportunity for Mainz to at least get out of that relegation zone with teams like, what was the ones that are ahead of them, like Arminia and Hertha, only a point and 3 points behind them, or I should say ahead of them. It was a big opportunity for those teams to really get out of that spot, but they didn't take advantage of it, so they're now still in that relegation spot. Eintracht Frankfurt also dropped points to Stuttgart with a 1-1 draw. Philipp Kostic gets an equalizer literally a minute after Stuttgart opened up the scoring in the 68th minute. And Frankfurt now in the last 2 games have a draw and a loss. Not the way they've been playing of late. They need to pick it up again, because now with Leverkusen getting a win this week, they're now only 3 points ahead of Bayern. I should say Bayer, yeah. And but yeah, with that Bayer Leverkusen game, it was a game between 2 teams that have seriously underperformed this year, with Mönchengladbach and Leverkusen going up against each other, and it was Leverkusen that were able to get the victory with a 76th minute goal from Patrick Schick. I should say game winner that they had, and it was a pretty dominant game from Bayer Leverkusen. They seem to have the momentum throughout this entire game. Mönchengladbach's attack usually fluid and plays really well with guys like Wolf, Thuram, Neuhaus. It just didn't seem to get anything going, and just weren't able to really get any sort of attack in this game, and that's why they get out with no goals and lose to Bayer Leverkusen 1-0. RB Leipzig continued their hot run of form, get a 3-0 victory over SC Freiburg. You got goals from Christopher Nkunku, Alexander Sorloth, who has been in some really good form of late, and Emil Forsberg. And it was just overall a dominant game from RB Leipzig. Even though most of their 2 goals, or 2 of their 3 came in the second half, even in the first half, they were dominating SC Freiburg in possession. We're getting, the passes going very well, and we're just overall dominating this game. Freiburg only had 5 shots, 1 on target, really couldn't get anything going over RB Leipzig. And with the way Leipzig are playing, they are a serious threat to Bayern Munich for that league title. It doesn't really seem like anybody can slow them down. Not like SC Freiburg are one of the top teams. They're a mid-level team in this Bundesliga, but they've been playing really great for the past few weeks, and It'll be really interesting. Do RB Leipzig play Bayern Munich towards the end of the season? They do. April 3rd. That is going to be the biggest game of this entire season, and you know I'm watching that. So, big time win for RB Leipzig to stay close to Bayern Munich. Now, another team that dropped points that have been playing very well of late, Wolfsburg. They get a goal early on in this game in the 23rd minute to equalize Christopher Baumgartner's 8th minute opening goal for Hoffenheim. But then Andres Kramaric, who always is going to get involved in any Hoffenheim game, gets the game-winning goal right before halftime in the 41st minute. Wolfsburg were unable to really get anything going in that second half. They certainly had, a good amount of shots, 18 shots, 6 on target, had good possession. They just couldn't break open that Hoffenheim defense and score an equalizer and at least get a point in this game. They were still able to hold on to that third place in the table, but are only 2 games ahead of Eintracht Frankfurt, 5 points ahead of Leverkusen. They need to... this is just one blip in the radar. They've been playing great over the past few weeks. They just need to continue to get at it and play better in the next game. Let's see. Bayern Munich versus Borussia Dortmund. Obviously, the most exciting game of this weekend. The Der Klassiker. I'm not really sure how you say it in German, but it's the classic, the Classico of German football. And Bayern Munich were looking terrible early on. Erling Haaland got off to a blistering start. 2 goals in the opening 10 minutes. And those goals really showed you everything that Haaland is about. He is an absolute incredible talent, which I've already talked about in this show. But you knew Bayern Munich were going to answer. Even though they were certainly in trouble, 2-0 down in the first 10 minutes, there were still 80 minutes of football left to play. And you knew Bayern Munich were going to answer. And answer they did. By the time it was half, it was already 2-2 with a brace from Robert Lewandowski. And then the second half was very close. Both teams were getting opportunities, even though Bayern Munich were certainly getting the handful of them. I mean, the first half was kind of even though, Borussia Dortmund certainly, got off to a hot start. Pretty much the rest of the game was all Bayern Munich. That second half, Borussia Dortmund really didn't have an answer. You would have expected Bayern Munich to score a goal eventually, but it didn't happen until the 88th minute when Leon Goretzka scored a beautiful goal. And I mean, this guy is in incredible form. I remember talking about him when I was talking about the top 10 Bayern players, and I was incredibly impressed with the way Leon Goretzka has really transformed his game and has been one of the key players for this Bayern team, and he showed it all in this game. He even assisted a few, and then of course Robert Lewandowski gets his hat trick in the 90th minute to really close the door on Borussia Dortmund. And it sucks. After a really hot start from them, they just could not answer Bayern Munich's just onslaught of attacks. And that's just the way it has been for Bayern Munich this season. Sure, their defense is not the greatest, but their attack is incredible. And I'll tell you what, man, that addition of... Oh, man, I messed it up. But the addition... Oh, where the heck... Oh, come on. You got this, Steve. Of Leroy Sané is absolutely incredible. The way he's able to hold on to the ball, make incredible moves, it kind of feels a bit like Robben. I'm not going to disrespect the brilliance of Robben. I mean, he is a legend of the game, but Leroy Sané has that same feel. Not really the same feel that Gnabry gave them. It's just different. The way he's just able to manipulate the defense with his array of moves, it's really something. And of course, it's always nice to see Thomas Müller in that middle of the pitch for Bayern Munich. It changes the game for them. And just Robert Lewandowski, I mean, what can I say about him? The best striker in the world. He shows it again, gets a hat trick in this game, and leads Bayern Munich to a big 4-2 win over Borussia Dortmund to give them 2-point lead in the table. A much-needed win for them, absolutely. And then we had some draws. We had FC Köln versus Werder Bremen getting a 1-1 draw. Josh Sargent scores once again for Werder Bremen. I mean, it's great to see the USA international score in back-to-back games. Huge for his confidence and for Werder Bremen as well. I mean, they put a lot of confidence into this, or I guess a lot of faith into Josh Sargent, and he's starting to prove that he can be that guy for them in the Bundesliga. And then, of course, you had Arminia versus Union Berlin. Union Berlin have not been able to play consistent over their past few weeks. Yes, they got 3 draws and a win in their past 4 games, but they just have not been able to close those games. And they get a poor 1-1, or what was it, goalless draw against Armenia, a team that has been in pretty much relegation form this whole season. The draw is just not going to cut it, even though they're still in 7th place ahead of teams like SC Freiburg, Mönchengladbach, who have lost 4 games in their last 5. Poor form for them. And they just need to do a little bit better. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for the Bundesliga. Let's move on to Serie A, where did I mess this up? Where's it at? There you go. Where we had Inter Milan taking on a big-time game against Atalanta and holding on for a 1-0 victory over the team. Milan Skriniar gets a 54th minute goal to give Inter Milan that much-needed 1-0 victory to keep them in pace at the top of the table, because AC Milan took care of business versus Verona. They defeated them 2-0, and that top of the table is starting to look a lot like Inter Milan and everybody else. I mean, yes, you got Juventus behind them, but they're 10 points behind them with about 10 games left to go. Yes, they have a game in hand as well, so at most they'd be 7 points behind. But man, Inter Milan have just been incredible this season. Their defense has been very solid, but attack-wise, it's just been non-stop from them. Of course, I'm always talking about Lukaku, Lautaro Martinez. They've just been so great. Juventus got a big game as well. They defeated Lazio 3-1. They got goals from Adrian Rabiot, a brace from Alvaro Morata. Those 2 goals came in the second half, 3 minutes between each other. So huge game for them. And this was after Lazio got off to a strong start with a 14th minute goal from Joaquin Correa. So even with Lazio opening up the scoring, and they've been playing well over their past few weeks. This is their first loss in I think it's about 6-7 games. Juventus were able to hold on, get their 3rd win in 4 games, and at least hold pace for the 3rd spot. Roma were also able to get a win. They get a 1-0 win over Genoa to hold on to that 4th spot in the table over Atalanta. And it was just a very big-time week for all the top clubs. Even Napoli got a win, 3-1 win over Bologna. That's now 3 wins and a draw in their last 5 games. They need to continue to play well. If they want to get into the top 5, it's going to be tough to hold on to a Champions League spot. I mean, if any team would lose in that top 5, I would expect Roma to drop a little bit. But they've just been able to hold on for games and been able to get wins. They got 3 wins and a draw in their last 5 games. So they've still been able to find a way to get wins and play consistently throughout this season. So a big-time game for Roma and Napoli, too. Pretty much all of those top teams, except for Atalanta, were able to hold on and get a win here. And, it's going to be a very exciting end to the season. But it looks like Inter Milan are going to be able to do what they were not able to do last season and hold on for the league title. I mean, we're just going to have to wait and see. It's still just a 6-point gap between them and AC Milan. But AC Milan have just not been the same team over the past few weeks. They were able to hold on, like I said, against Verona. They got a goal from Krunic and Diogo Dalot in the 27th and 50th minute to take the win. But it wasn't a convincing win. They didn't have most of the possession. They had the same amount of shots as Verona with 11. Only 3 of those shots were on target for AC Milan. So it just wasn't dominant like it's been earlier on in the season. So I really do think it's Inter Milan's season to lose now. And I've been saying it since Inter Milan dropped out of the Champions League. They were going to be primarily focused on Serie A. That's no surprise, but still, it's really impressive with what they've been able to do. Now let's move on to La Liga, where we've got some exciting stuff going on at the top of the table. Somehow, Barcelona have been able to inch only 3 points behind Atletico Madrid for the top spot, even though Atletico Madrid still have a game in hand on Barcelona and Real Madrid. Barcelona have 4 wins in their last 5. Atletico Madrid in their last 4 have a win, 2 draws, and a loss. That last draw, the most recent game was against Real Madrid, where they drew a 1-1 draw against in that Madrid derby. Luis Suarez scored early on in the 15th minute to give Atletico Madrid an early lead, but then Karim Benzema came to save the day for Real Madrid once again with an 88th minute equalizer to at least keep this game at 1-1. Barcelona took care of business versus Osasuna with a 2-0 win. Moriba scored his first goal for Barcelona. Same place that Ansu Fati scored his first goal for Barcelona. So, some great connections there for those guys. Real Sociedad were able to get a win over Levante. They've been finally able to find some solid form of late. 4 wins in their last 5. And with Sevilla now having 2 losses in a row after playing so great before that, they're only 3 points ahead of Real Sociedad for that 4th and final Champions League spot in La Liga. It's going to be a very exciting finish to the season. A finish that I was not expecting whatsoever. I thought this was Atletico Madrid's season from halfway through the season. I did not expect Barcelona or Real Madrid to get close enough, but Atletico Madrid have not played to that same level that you saw them early on in the season. They've dropped points. They've gotten a few draws here, a loss there. And just like that, Barcelona just 3 points behind Atletico Madrid. Even though Atletico do have that game in hand, it's close, and it's coming down to the wire. And now lastly, I want to talk about Liga. It is getting exciting, as I've been talking about for the past few weeks. You got Lyon taking care of business versus Rennes, getting a 1-0 victory over them. Lille getting a big-time victory over Marseille. It looked like it was going to be a draw, and PSG were going to be at the top of the table here. But Lille, in the final minutes of the game, were able to get 2 goals from Jonathan David. One in the 90th minute, the other in the 92nd, to put Marseille away. I was keeping track of this game because for some reason in the U.S., unless you purchase beIN Sports, you can't watch those games. But, I mean, it's just, I was keeping track of it, and I was like, all right, it looks like PSG are going to hold on because they were able to defeat Bordeaux 1-0, even though that game was not convincing at all. It was at least, they still got 3 points. But I was looking at this Lille game, and I was like, okay, it looks like we're going to be able to take the top of the table for the first time in a while. And Lille, and I should say Jonathan David, put Lille on his back and gave him a 2-0 victory to take all 3 points and hold on for that final spot. You look at the table now, and yes, Lille have dropped a few points, 2 draws in their last 4 games, but they're still holding on. They got 2 wins now in their last 3. Even though PSG have a loss mixed in there in their last 5 games, they got 4 wins in there as well. They've been playing great. Their attack is obviously best in the league. Defense is pretty much there with Lille. So they got the goal differential. They just need to continue to win games. They can't drop any points because Lille are certainly have their eyes on the title. And with them out of the Europa League now, they're going to be focused solely on the Premier League. And of course the French Cup as well, which, talking about the French Cup, we're going to have a PSG versus Lille back-to-back games. April 4th, we get a league game between PSG and Lille. That's going to be huge because obviously that's going to, if Lille were able to win that game, they put a huge distance between them and PSG in the top of the table. And then in the French Cup, you get a round of 16 matchup between PSG and Lille on April 6th. 2 games between these 2 top clubs in French football within 2 games. Within 2 days, I should say. Or 3 days. 3 days. But still, incredible scheduling you got there. But I'm super excited to see those games. I mean, I hope somehow I can find a way to see those games. I don't think so, because it's very tough to get French football here in the U.S. unless you purchase beIN Sports. But still, it's going to be a very crucial 2-game stretch there for PSG. I'm really hoping they hold on. For Monaco, they were not able to get a win this week. They needed to with the other top clubs in this league able to get the win. They lose to Strasbourg 1-0, and it was a very, very tough loss for them as they lost in extra time. The 91st minute, Strasbourg were able to get the winner. And that's a tough loss for Monaco, man. I mean, because they're if they were able to get that win, they would be able to keep pace with Lyon, PSG, Lille. But now with that loss, they're at 55 points, 4 behind Lyon, 5 behind PSG, 7 behind Lille. So it's getting a little tougher to see them challenging for that title. A Champions League spot, absolutely. They can probably still go for it, even though it's crazy. The only 3 spots in French football get into the Champions League. And the 3rd place is you got to make it into the qualifiers. So Monaco certainly still have a chance. They've been playing great football, but yeah, this is it right here. This is the beauty of French football this season. You got 4 clubs that are clearly at the top of French football right now. Lille, PSG, Lyon, and Monaco. I was expecting Rennes to be in that same, boat, but they just have not, and even Marseille, but they also have not played well this season. So it's going to be exciting. It's a really exciting finish. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around for the next segment, because when I come back, I'm going to be talking about the top 10 players in Manchester City this season right after this.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast. If you missed the last segment, we talked about the top 5 leagues in the world. Of course, talked about the games that happened this past weekend, went over the tables. A lot of those league tables are getting really tight at the top, so it's very exciting to talk about. And now we're going to be talking about the top 10 players for Manchester City this season. I obviously have been covering the Premier League the most this year. And I'm not gonna say I know everything about these players. I look at highlights. I've been looking at games, so I see how the players play, but I don't know every single thing about these players. So if you guys think there's anything wrong with my top 10 list, let me know in the comments what you think should be, or who you think should be in the top 10 for Manchester City this season. So let's just get started with number 10. I have Ederson, the 27-year-old goalkeeper. He has had 33 matches played this year and has a 79.0 save percentage this year to go with 20 clean sheets. Just an incredible... he fell off a little bit last season, and I kind of reflected that in my top 10 goalies in the world segment that I had pretty much towards the beginning of my tenure here. And I had left Ederson off that list because I just did not feel like he had a good season at all. He's still a solid goalkeeper, but he wasn't a top 10 in my eyes. This year, he has certainly gotten back to that. The reason I have him 10th is because I feel like the main reason why he is having such a solid season is because he is backed up by such a solid back line that it's kind of hard not to be a solid goalkeeper here. But the reason he is still one of the solid goalkeepers, he is an excellent sweeper keeper. His ability to hold on to the ball, find players. He's got an 83.2 pass completion percentage, and he's even got an assist this year, getting back to that ability to really find players with his long balls. He can kind of do it all at that goalkeeping spot, is a great shot stopper. His reflexes, his positioning, even his ability to get off his line at the right moments is one of the best in the world. And I just can't give him all the credit for the 20 clean sheets, because it is certainly because he is backed up by the best back line in the Premier League and one of the best back lines in the entire world at the moment. At number 9, I have Riyad Mahrez, and he probably wouldn't even have made this list had it not been for his blistering form of late. He's in 35 matches, he's got 8 goals and 5 assists. He can kind of do it all with the ball and in attack. He's a really good dribbler. He's got about 1 dribble per game. He can pass the ball very well. 82.9 pass completion percentage in 30 passes per game. 1.2 key passes. So he certainly gets multiple people involved offensively. Obviously you saw from those 5 assists that I just said, and he can also score himself. He showed it before he even moved here from Leicester City, his ability to really, change games on the offensive end, and he's brought that to Manchester City over the past few years. And this year, he's been one of their more consistent players on the wings and is a vital piece to what they do offensively. Obviously, when we talk about Man City this year, we talk about how game-changing their defense has been, but Riyad Mahrez is a big reason why their attack is still as potent as it is. At number 8, we have the 20-year-old midfielder, Phil Foden. And really, I put midfielder, but this kid is so versatile. He can play in multiple positions. I even feel like he can play striker, because one of the things that we, I guess fans and Premier League fans alike would see from Phil Foden is he's got a lot of skills. He can control the ball. He's got great technical skills. His defense is solid, not world class or anything like that. Not even great, but it's decent, for a player that usually prefers to play up and in attack. But the one thing that was missing from his game was a very solid finishing. This year, he has erased all that and is one of the best finishers on this team. He's got 11 goals. That's good for second on the team. 6 assists as well, so he gets players involved as well. An 80.1 pass completion percentage on 28 passes per game, 1.1 key passes, 1.2 dribbles. So like I said, that technical ability that he has with the ball. And he's not at that same form that he was in the beginning of the season. He was probably the best player for Manchester City early on in the season. He's kind of hit that wall that you expect from younger players. I mean, he's only 20 years old, so he's got so much more room to grow. But when you talk about what he's got at the base, just his skill sets, he's got the ability to be one of the best players in the world, no doubt in my mind, because he can do it all with the ball. And just the fact that he adds that incredible touch in the box to be able to finish really opens a lot of things up for Phil Foden. At number 7, I have Raheem Sterling. Really, I'm surprised that he's this low on the list. I would have imagined that at this point, Raheem Sterling would be one of the best players in Manchester City, which, he's the 7th best player, but I was thinking top 5, probably even for sure top 3. But he comes in at number 7 because it's just, he's got 13 goals, 8 assists in 36 matches played. That's great, and he's been playing better of late. But it's just the inconsistencies that you get from Raheem Sterling. He's still one of the most technically gifted players on this list. He gives you some solid passing, 85% pass completion on 31 passes a game, 1.1 key pass a game, 2.1 dribbles per game, which I believe is the best on this team. So he does a lot of things in attack, but it's just that he gives you too many on and off games, where he doesn't really impact it at a high level. He's certainly been better of late, but I have to take in the whole entire season. And when I do that, I just don't see enough from Raheem Sterling. He's only 26 years old. He's got plenty of time to turn things around and really be the best player, one of the best players on this team. But just right now, I put him at number 7 because I still expect a lot more from him. And he certainly shoots the ball really well as well. I didn't even mention this. He's got a 52.8 shot on target percentage, which is very, very impressive. More often than not, he's going to get that shot on target. But it's just too many inconsistencies from a player we expect so much from at this point. He has certainly regressed since his breakout season, I believe a year or two ago. So that is why he comes in at number 7. At number 6, we have İlkay Gundogan, the 30-year-old center midfielder. What is going on here with this guy? He is having an incredible season, and it just gets better and better. He at one point this year, he was the hottest player in the entire league. He's got 13 goals to lead the club, 2 assists, a 90% pass completion, 1.2 key passes per game. He just makes everything flow from that midfielding spot. He loves moving up and being a part of the attack, and he has such high IQ. He gets in the right spots, knows how to finish. As you're seeing, there was a stretch, like I said, he had 5 goals in 3 games, or I think it was it was more than that. He had 8 goals or 9 goals in the stretch of 8 games. It was just absolutely unbelievable what he's been able to do this season. Has been a huge part of making this team's offense better than what we were expecting when you saw the beginning of the season. He's the reason, because they do not have that extra play. Their strikers have been super inconsistent this season. That's why you're not going to see Gabriel Jesus on this list, Sergio Aguero, 2 guys that usually would be one of the main goal scorers on this team, have not been at that same level. Yes, Gabriel Jesus has 11 goals this season, but it's still been very inconsistent throughout. İlkay Gundogan has added that secondary goal-scoring threat to this team. And the fact that he also, manages so many things in the midfield and controls the tempo of the game kind of really changes things up for this team, and is the reason why he comes in at number 6. At number 5, I have João Cancelo. And maybe this is a controversial pick. Maybe some people would prefer somebody behind him higher on this, replaced with him on this list. But there are so many good things that João Cancelo does for this team, and is a big part why they are as good as they are defensively this year. In 32 matches played, he's got 2 goals and 4 assists. He's got an 85.8 pass completion percentage in 65 passes per game. And he does it all. 1.3 key passes per game, 1.5 tackles, 1.7 interceptions, best on the team, in fact. 1.1 blocks, 1 clearance a game, 1.3 aerial duels per game, 1. He just does it all in the defensive end, and I never really expected that from Cancelo. And when you combine all those defensive skills with his pace, his technical skills to be able to get by players, his crossing ability to really find open players in the box, it just shows you how important the fullback position is in this modern day of football. If you can have someone that can do that many things, like you'll find a player that can, be a great playmaker like a Trent Alexander-Arnold, but they won't play that well defensively. Or you'll find a great defender like an Aaron Wan-Bissaka that can stop any one-on-one situation. But will you find a goal from him? Or will he find many players open in the box? Probably not. He's not that great in the attack. João Cancelo is one of those rare fullbacks that can do both at a high level, and he has shown that far more often than not this season. So that is why he comes in at number 5 for me. At number 4, we have one of the center backs from that incredible back line, John Stones, the 26-year-old center back. 4 goals in 24 appearances this season. It's crazy the revival that his career has had this year, because when you consider before the season started, nobody was talking about John Stones. Nobody. All the talk was, of course, Ruben Diaz wasn't on the team yet. He was brought in kind of right before the season started. But you were looking at Laporte, maybe Nathan Ack, as a guy that can come in and really be a big-time part of this defense. And neither one of those really stepped up. It was John Stones who became a vital piece to this team. Obviously, he's got the ability to score the goals. His passing has been excellent. 94.2 pass completion percentage in 68 passes per game. 2.5 clearances a game. 1.3 blocks. That's one of the things I love about these defenders. They have absolutely no problem getting in the way of shots. They lay out their body on the line for this team. And that's one of the main reasons why this Manchester City team is so good this season. They got guys who are willing to sacrifice to make their defense, as great as it is. And John Stones is one of the best defenders in the Premier League this season. He has shown it time and time again this year, and I'm just super impressed with what he's been able to do. That's why he comes in all the way at number 4. Who would have thought it, man? At number 3, another piece to this incredible defense, and probably the most important, Rodri, the 24-year-old center defensive midfielder, has been absolutely incredible in that midfield. 34 matches played, he's got a goal, nothing else, but that's what makes him so incredibly important. He's not going to give you a lot in terms of counting stats. Yeah, he's got he's got a goal and 3 assists, I should say. So he's not going to give you so many counting stats. That's not where his game is. He's going to rely on guys like Kevin De Bruyne, Raheem Sterling, Riyad Mahrez to really push even İlkay Gundogan to push up and get all those, attacking stats. But what he does well is he controls the midfield. 91% pass completion in 67 passes per game. But he also defends at a high level, 1.7 tackles per game. That's best in the team. 0.9 blocks, 0.9 interceptions a game, 1.5 clearances, and a team-leading 2.2 aerial duels per game. Rodri has been an absolute wall for Manchester City this season. Has been a big help to the center back duo of Ruben Diaz and John Stones. He's honestly, really, when I think about it, maybe he deserves to be a little bit higher. Maybe he deserves to be second on this list. But I'm going to stick with him at number 3 because I feel like the guy ahead of him has been such a revelation for Manchester City this season and what they have been able to do from, obviously being one of the top attacker teams throughout most of their history to now being the best defensive team in the Premier League and probably in the world this season. So Rodri comes in at number 3. Huge season from him. And he was obviously a big pickup when they brought him in, 2 years ago? And he has shown his ability to really control everything from attack to defense in that center defensive midfielding role for Manchester City. And at number 2, I got Ruben Diaz, the 23-year-old center back. What an addition this man has been for this Manchester City team. That's one of the things that they were missing over the years. Yes, they have had excellent attackers. Obviously, Kevin De Bruyne is a masterclass center attacking midfielder. Raheem Sterling came in, has been huge. Sergio Aguero, one of the best strikers in Premier League history. But they have never had a shutdown center back that can just anchor a defense. Ruben Diaz has come into the team and been just that. And the fact that he can control the ball and be such a facilitator as well. He's only got 1 goal in 34 matches played. So he's not, a guy that's going to, be in the attack and be a big-time factor there. But 94.2 pass completion percentage on 76 passes per game. He is so consistent with the ball at his feet. Rarely gives the ball up. 1.2 blocks a game as well. Like I said, he puts his body on the line. Leads the team with 2.8 clearances per game, 1.2 aerial duels as well. It's just absolutely incredible what we've been able to see from Ruben Diaz this year. I mean, there were obviously, people that were skeptical, when he came into the team because there has been so many times that Man City has paid a lot of money to bring in a center back and just bring in defenders overall, and it has just not panned out. This has 100% panned out. And he has already become one of the top players on this team and is probably the best center back in all of the Premier League this season, only because Virgil van Dijk is not playing. He's been injured. That's the only reason. He'd most likely be number 2 behind Virgil van Dijk. But he comes in at number 2 here on this Manchester City top 10 list. And at number 1, I mean, there really couldn't be anyone else but Kevin De Bruyne because he still is the man that gets everything going on this team. 28 matches played. He has had to deal with a few injuries this season, but he still has 3 goals and a league-leading 16 assists in all Well, I guess just to say what he's got, I think he's got 11 or 13 assists in the Premier League, but 16 assists in all competitions. You would probably want to see that pass completion percentage a little bit higher. He's at 76% on 49 passes a game, but his 2.7 key passes lead the team by a mile. 1.2 dribbles per game is also very impressive because, he doesn't look like the most mobile, but he's very smart with the ball, technically gifted, but he's the best passer in the entire world. I mean, he gets teammates open in impossible situations, or at least, situations that seem impossible, but he is just so good with the ball, is in his prime, is one of the best players in the entire world. But the reason I really put him at number 1 is his ability to also help out on the defensive end. He also has 1.2 tackles per game and lays his body on the line. 1 block a game as well. Just has had an absolutely incredible season. And I mean, honestly, he is the main reason they are as good as they are. Kevin De Bruyne at number 1, you really couldn't expect anything else. But that's going to wrap it up for this segment and for the show. I hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, thank you for listening to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I would really appreciate it. Thank you and have a great night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.